Hey guys, I wanted to come on here and talk about being on call as a traveler. Because I know that was one of my questions that I had when I was going to be a traveler. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to pick up so much call that I'm not going to be able to travel? No, at least not what I've seen. And again, we're on our second assignment. We're in Oregon. We were in Maine, and then we originally came from Florida. So I'm going to kind of compare about those three different places for being on call. I am sitting on the floor behind my bed, as you can see. I just already filmed this video, and then I'm watching the background, and I have clothes hanging in the background. I'm like, that's my bra. Fantastic. So, take two. Okay, so being on call. First things first, definitely do your research. In Florida, we only got paid about like $2 to $3 for being on call as a CST. I cannot speak for CSTs that are surgical techs that are not certified, just STs, and I can't speak for nurses. But for a CST in Florida, we only got paid about between $2 to $3 for basically being on standby. And when you got called back in, time and a half. It's different as a traveler. I'll get into that. In Maine, it was $3.50. So it was a boost. I was like, yes, this is awesome. We're getting paid more for being on call. Because as a traveler, you know, the weekend, we work for our weekends basically. You know, for the weekend, you want to go out and explore the state. That's why you're traveling, right? So I was like, okay, this is better. This is better. Oregon, they get paid $5 an hour for being on standby, which is awesome. So at first I didn't know this. So we're getting, they did the discussion about how much we're going to get paid, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh yeah, we got paid like a little over $3.50 when we moved from Maine over here. And then I was talking to some of the employees. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, we're renewing. So, of course, I was getting like all the details. There was a couple of other travelers that were there as well, which answered some of my questions. I'm always learning. I love talking with other travelers, even if they're nurses, because you get to explore through them. Like their travel agency might be different, stuff like that. So it's really cool to see and learn about like tax reduction, stuff like that, which another video. Anywho. So I talked to my manager and we were going to renew, and I was like, is there any way that we can get paid for being on call the same as your employees? She's like, absolutely. She was like, how much are you guys getting paid? I'm like, $3.50. She's like, it's not even worth being on call. I'm like, I know. Different states have their different pay rate. I totally understand. Not bashing, any other state that doesn't pay that much. Not bashing them at all. Oregon is a little more expensive to live in. But actually our housing was a little bit cheaper than in Maine, but it doesn't matter. So it's all different. So definitely do your research because everything's different. Each state could be different. So definitely do your research, especially if you're not going to renew. If you are planning on renewing, then, you can take it. I would still do your research, see how much you can get. And then once you're there and you're going to renew, then you can be like, hey, I want to make the same or whatever. Or maybe you're like, hey, I take everybody's call. I want to get paid a little bit more. You do you, boo-boo. You get that money. Okay? So definitely do your research, step number 1. Step number 2, when you call and you talk to them, when you're doing that interview, right, and you have your list of questions, make sure on there you're asking them how far out you need to be or how close do you need to be to the hospital when you're on call. In Maine, we had to be within 20 minutes of the hospital. Oregon and Florida was 30 minutes. And that's a big difference, because when you're looking for housing, and if you can't find anything, you need to know whether or not you want, your agent to find you housing, or if you're doing like a campground site, like if you're going to do an RV and you're more in the city and there's nothing that close, so you want to know as soon as possible, how far out you're going to live, because then you want to ask them, okay, well, if I'm further out, does the hospital provide, a place for me to sleep? Some hospitals, like there's one in Maine that we were at, and they had a call room that you can call and reserve it. Well, of course, if someone else took it, like a surgeon or a doctor, then You know, you might be able to get a bed up on the floor somewhere, maybe. It depends on the hospital. Or you would have to, you know, get a hotel, which can get pricey. So I would definitely ask that question and make sure, you know, housing and everything, make sure, you know, you can put that into perspective, or, you know, understanding where you can help you find housing. So the third part, you know, I just made this video, I'm like losing my train of thought. Okay, so the third part is that when you're doing your interview, the good question to ask as well is like, hey, if I was on call and I worked 12 hours overnight or 8 hours or whatever, am I able to come in later? Do I get the day off? Some places are like, you're on call, you're screwed if you worked late or whatever. We'll try to send you home early if we can. If not, it is what it is, which I think is so dangerous. So dangerous. I mean, especially if you're mentally exhausted and physically exhausted for being on call, you're not going to be at their, you know, when there's a bleeder, you might be even a little bit slower. You know, I just don't think that's really good for patient care. But anywho, this hospital that we're at right now, it could be because it's a union hospital. I do not know. I'm not getting into that discussion because I learned a little bit about it in school. But as a traveler, I'm not really within the whole mix. I don't know if you want to call it like union drama or not. I don't know. But anywho, what I do like is that they give you a 10-hour break. So if you're on call until, you know, 2 in the morning and you're supposed to come in at 6:30, they automatically tell you, okay, you can take your 10 hours and rest and you can come in later in the day. Or I was actually given a lovely opportunity to have the day off. Our normal shift, Vince and I, is 11 to 7:30 p.m. I worked my full shift. Then I stayed until midnight, got called in at 5 in the morning, and was there until 7, until one of the, you know, early morning people were able to come in and get me out. As I was leaving, I was like, John, I was like, hey, charge nurse, can I come in later? Because I normally come in at 11. Normally that would be fine, but I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to be, you know, obviously that's not 10 hours, but I was just like, I don't know if I can handle all that. He's like, if you want to come in, whatever, but I'm going to give you the day off. I took the day off. I was a zombie. I worked on scrap again. I had 3 cups of coffee that day just to like stay functioning, and that was it. So that's nice. That's really nice. Like, thanks for, you know, thinking of us, but mostly patient care, right? So that's basically everything I wanted to go over really, really quick about being on call. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments down below. I will do my best to answer them. Oh, another thing. So our hospital, our OB is separate, just like heart and vascular separate. We're just like the main OR. So if you are on call for OB that's in a different department, for their employers, they do like time and a half or double time plus on-call pay and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't pertain to us because we're travelers. But if you were to take over or take another call for another department, you might be able to get paid more. What I'm talking about is that we're coming in, I'll give you a real scenario. We're going to come in on Monday at 9 o'clock. She told me that she will pay us from 9 to 11 till our normal shift starts. From 9 to 11, we're going to get paid callback pay. So whatever's in the contract, that's our callback pay. That's how much we're going to get paid for those hours. And then it goes back to your normal pay rate for your normal shift. What's good about that, okay? So say I do that, and then throughout the week, they're like, hey, there's nothing to do. Do you guys want to go home? You guys can go home, whatever. Say I do go home. Say I do go home a couple times that week. That means I didn't work my full 40. But just because I didn't work my full 40, I still get paid for those couple of hours as my callback, which is good. You get what I'm trying to say? So instead of like when you work your 40 and then if you work overtime, you get your callback pay rate. Well, I'm guaranteed those couple of hours of my callback rate versus just adding it on for extra hours as for overtime. Because what if you leave early, then it's not overtime. So always keep that in mind. If they ever say, hey, can you come in early for us? Just say, okay, are you going to pay me overtime for it? Are you going to pay me like I'm coming in like you would if you were on call pay, on call rate? I think that's what it's called. It's a learning process, guys. It is a learning process. But anywho, if you have any questions about call or anything else you want to go over as fellow travelers, put it in the comments down below. I will do my best, like I said, to answer them. Anyhow, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great day. I am going to make a couple more videos, edit them, and I'm going to work on Scrapbook. It is a lazy weekend, and I'm loving it. So, you guys have a good one.